Aloha, you've reached Samana. This is Unconventional Insights. This is our 8th podcast. Today we are going to talk about healing the inner child and doing inner child work. So first I'm going to start out by saying this is day 17 I am on of my 30-day cleanse, and I'm feeling inspired. My mind is clear. Mentally and creatively, I'm stronger than ever. I've been doing so much research and production and exciting things every day that it's very exciting. I've had some great days at the gym, and I'm loving this cleanse. And I'm looking forward to any of you that want to join me in this. For 30 days, the month of September, on Mondays it will be online, and on Thursday nights it will be in-house in Austin, and we have some spaces available. So now let's talk about inner child work. So understanding our inner child is our emotional body. So depending on our emotional maturity and our stability, that shows how much inner work we've done and how much unresolved wounds are still there. So for instance, if an event happens in your life that is upsetting and you exaggerate your reaction, like you really blow up and have quite a extreme response to it, much of that has to do with a wounded inner child. So many times people have these wounds from childhood because either they didn't have parents to help guide them and support them and nurture them when they went through life issues, or the types of parents they had wasn't the nurturing they needed. So it's not always the parents' fault in this. Sometimes how we need to be nurtured is very unique and different from other people. Some people need to be held, some people need words of encouragement, some people need you to just sit with them, some people love it where you take them out to lunch or give them a little gift and show them some personal time. There's so many ways of feeling loved and getting your inner needs met. So, how do we know when something is happening in our life and it is warranted to feel as upset as we are because of the event, or if it's old wounds and inner child stuff? Well, when you have an extreme sadness, an inconsolable loneliness, this deep isolation or feeling not connected to anyone, those pretty often are coming from your past, from old wounds. And I've had, when people are in an emotional crisis, it is very hard to console them. So if this is me as a counselor, or if you have a friend that's going through things that they're wigging out and there's hysteria and crying, and in that moment, because it's something from their past, you're not going to be able to reach them. It's kind of a time travel thing where they're actually so far in the past that there's nothing you could say or do right now that would soothe them. So all you can do is stand there. You could put a hand on them gently so they know someone's there, even though most likely they won't be aware of it, and just listen to them. In those moments, don't give any advice, don't try to fix it, just listen. Learn to be a very, very good listener. That's all you could do in those cases. When I have someone that I'm working with and it's hysterical, be it a client or if it's a friend and they're in a crisis, I will always ask them, how much of this is from the current situation and how much is from the past? And I tell them to put that in a percentage. So no matter what crisis they're in, I found that anyone even in crisis, when you give them this little mental game to work with, it in a sense helps them because it gives them a concentration practice, and they can usually get to it. So usually when I say, okay, so how much of this really was about what happened right now? And they usually say like 30%. And then I say, okay, so how much is from your past? Okay, 70%. Okay, so we get that. So then I'll just say, so this is something from your inner child. And now we're going to learn how to do some reparenting. So reparenting is a term that is where we become the authority to our inner child, and we learn to soothe ourselves with certain ways where we could give ourselves like a hug, where people aren't really seeing what we're doing, or we're doing gentle petting, where I'm oftentimes, if I have to go to work and if something was big that was coming up, I can't stop to do inner child work through the years, so I still have to go and have my needs met by doing all my responsibilities. But while I'm teaching or counseling, I might have one hand on the other hand, and I'm doing a nice, gentle little stroking with my thumb, and in a sense, that's my kind of personal contact. And I had one of my meditation teachers that would say that if you were to think of your parent or partner or priest or someone that loved you very much, and if they were to say a sound or a phrase to you that would soothe you very deeply, what would that phrase be? And he shared that his was when someone says, "Aw," like when he's sharing something that really upset him or hurt him, and they'd go, "Aw," like it's like a reassuring that, "Oh, I get that." And for me, I learned this in my 30s, that the phrase, "It's okay, it's going to be okay, it's okay." Because when my daughter or my son or a friend or someone is in crisis and they come to me, I will I stroke their hair or touch their arm, and I'm saying, "It's going to be okay, it's okay, it's okay." So I say that to others. I bring my soothing words to other people because it's what I need to hear. But if my stuff is coming up, then I'm not saying this out loud when I'm working or teaching or in front of people, but I'm saying it to myself, where I'm saying, "It's okay, it's going to be okay, Samana." And I'll say phrases like, I'm here with you. I'm not going anywhere. It's as long as you need, I'm here with you. We're going to get through this together. Just all the nurturing, positive phrases that we can think of is what we want to do for ourselves. And I want to give an example of a story, of a personal thing that happened a few months ago. For me, that was inner child stuff. And I'm in a very good place. I do all of my life skills tools on a regular basis, and I have a lot of emotional stability, and I've done so much process in my life, and I believe it's never over until we die. So I was at this women's group. It was this shamanic women's group, and the first day I went, it was wonderful. I met a couple new friends. Then I went back the next week, and the woman that was in charge, who was an older Texas woman who was the authority, she had a strong authority about her, and I was asking her a couple questions before the group started because I just wanted to know logistics. And so when I would talk to her, she seemed very short with me, and she would say things to me that seemed to be like she didn't like me. Like I was thinking right away, it kind of like I could feel this in my heart because I went there very open and ready to connect, and then she seemed kind of mean to me. So I actually felt hurt, and I thought, it's not really possible that she can't like me. I haven't done anything or said anything. I didn't talk out of turn. I wasn't talking when the circle already started. So I kind of logically looked at that very quickly. And then I decided to sit in the circle while other people were showing up and getting ready. And I did a little checking in and a little meditation. And I closed my eyes, and took a breath. So another thing that I do when I need to reboot is I take a deep breath. I do a inhale and exhale. And that, in a sense, reboots the mind. So again, you could do a inhale, exhale, and you could do that a few times until you start to feel a little more calm or settled or not so emotional. And then with my eyes closed, I just checked in, and I was checking in to see, okay, is this happening now? And again, since the logical mind said there was nothing I could have done for her to not like me, then I realized this was something from my past. And as I sat there quietly and just kind of focused on my breathing and listening to the sounds around me, I had this memory from when I was very young in junior high and high school, and I had this experience. I had one very good friend who was always with me, but I had this experience that the girls around me did not like me. They would give me bad looks and, talk behind my back, and they were either jealous or just mean or who knows, but I felt very isolated and very sectioned out. And then I realized I have not remembered that in 30, 40 years, probably 30 years, let's say. And now here I am in this woman's group where I don't know anyone, and that old wound came back of me feeling judged or unliked or isolated. And I knew this was an opportunity for me to heal something from a long time ago, that I have not been in a circumstance. I've either not emotionally been strong enough for this to come up, or I've not created a circumstance in my life that it could have been activated. Because I also realized from that little incident happening is that my whole life I created a business, 3 businesses, primarily with women, with some men, but primarily with women, that I was the teacher or the counselor for them. So I was this person of authority, and this is how everybody's gonna love and adore me. And so perhaps my inner wounds unconsciously created that environment, but it's not how it ended up. I mean, I healed many things from that point, and from then I actually have a couple of very close female friends that still live on Maui, and I miss them dearly. And I have met some beautiful women here in Austin since I've been here, and even these new friends that I'm so blessed to have, and very, very happy to have them as my equals. And we talk girl talk and talk about boys and talk about life and aging and, life sucks and life's great and all those things that we do. So I was so grateful to that woman, to that lead of that shamanic circle, for being perfectly who she was, that I came in and that old wound came up. And it wasn't devastating, and it didn't take days or months or anything. It actually happened so quickly in that circle. And at the end of that night, out of nowhere, she came up to me and gave me this big hug and said, "You are so adorable," and gave me this big Texan hug that I felt so warm, and it actually just seeped into my heart. I loved it. And I've loved her since, and I've never felt that again. But in that one moment, that one deep reflection of a past wound, it needed to come up so I could heal it. And again, having the tools, I was able to address it. So, these are beautiful things. I've often, in talking about inner child issues, is I give the example of, if we were to take a giant oak tree, like a 50-year-old oak tree, let's say, and if we were to energetically cut it where we could look at the stump, look inside, we'd never want to cut a tree, of course. The beauty of trees are each ring of its life, it will have a ring going within, spiraling in, that will reflect what the environment was like during every year of this tree's life. And you could see how some of the rings are thinner, where maybe there was more of a drought or it didn't get its nourishment or a tree blocked its sunlight, or some are thicker where it had a strong, very healthy, wonderful year and everything. You could tell in the rings how strong and vital the tree was. And I love that example because I've often related to trees growing up, that if we were to energetically cut ourselves in a horizontal way and look inside, that from the moment we take our first breath at birth until our last breath as we transition from this body, that each of the rings of our lives are simultaneously existing also. And when there were traumas or unresolved, unaddressed emotional wounds, they stay there. And we can grow old around it. The rings will grow old around it. The ages, as we get distracted with life and can keep ourselves so busy that we never have a moment of stillness to think about these things that hurt us so much. And we create mechanisms where we either forget about it, we deny it, or we rewrite it in our mind because it's better that the story ended that way instead of how it really did. I could accept that a lot more. And that is, the brain does that to protect ourselves. And to acknowledge that when things in our current life activate those old wounds, and it's so overwhelming to us, it's so distressful, it's so unconsolable, we need to realize that deeper work has to be done. So often, wanting to go to a friend or a partner or a parent or someone to help us, and if we could start doing our own inner work, where we're bringing that tenderness to us, where we are really knowing what our primary way of love is and finding nurturing ways to go about healing ourselves and attending to ourselves. I mean, I've gone, when I started doing lots of inner child work, was after my daughter was born. Of course, having a child said, I'm not going to be unconscious where I will ever overlook some abuse or something happening to her. I always want to be present. So she was a motivation for me to do even deeper work than I had done. And I did quite a bit of work. Before I was pregnant, I thought I was enlightened. So how about that for a joke? But I've always been a meditator since my late teens, and I've always had a sense of awareness and consciousness and all of these things. But at different decades in my life, I have done deeper work. And in my 30s, I did a lot of work. So there were a few things that I learned. So I use this with clients when I hear them. And I've given other people these little tools that when someone has anxiety, so if you're noticing that you tend to have anxiety attacks, and anxiety attacks, in my 30s, I ended up in the hospital. I had such an anxiety attack, I thought it was a heart attack. And what it means in psychological terms, in emotional imbalance terms, is anxiety issues means that you're overwhelmed and you are taking on too much alone. The other thing that it's showing you, the symptom, so anxiety is the symptom showing there is an imbalance for your deeper needs. And it's also showing that you need support from others. So you need to, when anxiety is your default mode, if it's something that happens often with you, and most people feel it in their stomach, where they have an anxious stomach, where it gets upset, and their mind spinning, and oftentimes insomnia. These are all anxiety issues, that they have two choices. You either see everything that you are taking on and really assess and see how much of that you can do, that if you keep backing up and eliminating some of these things, at what point will it be that exact balance with the stability you've created inside to meet the responsibilities you need to do outside. And when you know what that perfect balance is, that is what you honor and what you do to support yourself. You say, this is all I can do. Even though we can take on so many things, if you're feeling anxiety, you are taking on too much. Just because you're capable of doing it doesn't mean that it's healthy and good for your system. So this is where you are number one and self-love is number one. So you are now the parent, the authority, the healthy mother, the healthy father saying, I am going to take care of you, that emotional body, that inner child, and we're going to do less. Or we're going to ask others to help us so we could achieve what we want to do. And if we have the support from others, then that's wonderful. And if you're used to doing it alone and you don't know how to ask for support, then that's something for you to work on. The other thing that is common is when depression comes up. So if depression is chronic in your life, then it's showing you that your heart isn't in what you're doing, either your job or your relationship or where you're living or your friendships, because you're depressed. There's like no energy going forward. So again, I think I've given this analogy before, where the heart is our flame and our sole responsibility is to keep that flame lit. And it's our passion. It's what lights us up. It's what makes us happy and joyous and expansive. And when we're depressed, we allowed a person or a circumstance or a situation to dampen us, to put that flame out. And our heart is not in it. So we need to look to see how can we change the circumstances where our heart will be in it, where it will support the flame of our heart, our own passion, our own vision. Or how do we change our view of the circumstance or the person? And a way to change the view is to have more self-help tools as a buffer to make you stronger, and it will make a difference. Where these adversities that happen to us on the outside, where life happens and bullshit happens and scene after scene happens, that you can say, oh, okay, you see it as, oh yeah, this happened today, but it's not a crisis. It's not where you're calling everyone on the phone and saying the same story over and over and over again. It's just life happened and you addressed it. So when you are in your healthy, mature emotional body, that's what it is. This was a challenge. The machine broke down. Someone didn't show up for work. My daughter got sick. I broke a plate in the kitchen. I mean, those are just normal life things. My dog died because he's old. I mean, this didn't happen, but it will someday. But these are life things that happen that are not supposed to be such a big dramatic deal. But if everything is a big dramatic deal, you do not have enough self-help tools that you're doing to make yourself strong, to view it as life has adversity, life has contrast. These contrasts and adversity in life are there for a reason. It shows us what we don't want and what we do want. So as soon as an adversity happens, for instance, a friend of mine was saying how she went out with girlfriends this weekend and they were wine tasting and all this stuff was happening, and she said, and she was so mad at herself because she's like, I don't even like to drink that much and I would have rather have been home and I could have been working on my house, and she was so mad at herself. And I instantly said to her, why are you looking at it like that and beating yourself up? Why don't you see it that beautiful contrast of you agreeing to go out with those women and do those things that you used to like was a way of showing you that you've changed and you've grown. And we only know that we've changed and we've grown by an experience that shows us something that's an adversity or something that's contrasted, something that we didn't want to do. But she didn't know that because she used to have her needs met. That used to make her happy. So I said, this is so exciting that you created an experience to show you how much you've grown and how you have changed and how you're not a partier and you like to do things at home with your kids. I was very happy for her. It's all how we look at it. So there was a time when I was running my 3 businesses that I actually got to a point where I knew that I could handle like 5 disasters a day and sometimes 7 disasters a day, because I still meditated a lot, I always worked out, I ate very healthy, and I journaled, so I did a lot of my own personal work. So I had a big reserve where I could handle lots of chaos in a day. But when it hit that point where it was past 5 disasters or past 7 disasters, I wouldn't react in any way. I would just instantly say, like if a staff would come up and say, okay, now this happened, and what are we doing with that? And I would say, I don't have any more answers for today. Come back again tomorrow. And they'd look at me when I first started doing this and thought I was crazy. And I was just really clear. I wasn't even charged when I said it. I would just say, no, come again tomorrow. Because I'm done. I have no more answers. I'm out of answers for today. Because if I were to continue giving answers or solving problems, it would not be to the level that I would want them to be solved. That would be logical, that would be balanced, that would be acceptable. It would be me pushing it, and I would be taking from my own inner reserve and depleting myself. So we need to know from ourselves, how much buffer do we have? How many crises can we have in a day that, oh yeah, shit happens. It really is that. But if every time something happens, like you hit a squirrel crossing the road on your way to work and it just totally blows you out because why did that happen? And you're wondering, did you do something wrong? It's not that way. Life happens. So it just means when you're off work the next day, you're going to wash your car. You're going to say a little prayer for that squirrel. And we just know that this is what we do. But know what your limit is. Have little commitments to yourself. So I know what nurtures me, and when I've had a day of putting out fires all day long, be it personally or at work, I know that I need alone time. I know that I don't want to talk to humans. I turn my phone off. I have woken up some mornings and know that I feel a little depleted, and I will text specific people to say, I'm offline today. And they know, don't even call, don't text, nothing. It's not personal. I just need this space for me. I love eating nurturing foods. Some people, when they nurture themselves, they love their ice cream. I like a healthy soup or a great salad. Today I had with chicken, like a curried chicken, and then I had some avocado and walnuts and blueberries. It was heaven on this cleanse, mind you. My one full meal a day. You really learn to love that food. And other things we do. So journaling. I love to do my little journaling, my meditation. I like to sit outside on my swing with a dog next to me, petting my dog, listening to the birds, watching the hummingbirds, just feeling the breeze and that wonderful Texas heat. All of that beautiful stuff. Just know what lights you up, what gives you that balance again, and do these things for yourself. So, other things. A big event in life is when people break up from a relationship, when that ends. And they go through insomnia, they go through loneliness, they go through feelings of, am I lovable? Will I ever meet anyone again? All this self-worth stuff comes up. And they're going over what went wrong, what could I have done better? And all of those are natural human responses. Yet again, sometimes, so we need to look at 2 things. Are we devastated? Are we unable to go to work or function in life after this breakup? Or are we So is that inner child stuff coming up where we can't move forward? Or are we just sad and needing time to heal? So we need to look at those two things, because if it's inner child stuff, then this usually brings us back to childhood, where there was an abandonment if your parents got divorced, or if your mother wasn't as affectionate as you needed, or your father was absent because he was working all the time. And now you have this relationship ending, and it had its run, and it had its good and bad points, and in a few weeks, you're going to see how you feel freer and happier than you ever have before, because in a sense, you knew that it wasn't the right thing for you. But it's so overwhelming at the time of the separation, and so devastated and unable to act and move forward because it's bringing up the past. This is, again, where you need to bring in your skills, your inner child skills. So, I'm going to bring up again, those skills are on all levels. So any self-help tools, they're taking care of ourselves nutritionally, eating well, taking supplements, drinking plenty of water, having quiet time, having personal space, not filling your space all the time with people, with busyness. Like people that can't just sit still and enjoy their own company, that are constantly on a schedule, they're afraid of something. They're afraid of their past. They're afraid of their own person. They have to get used to being okay, being in love with themselves. The greatest love affair is with ourselves first. And in that time, we can love another person fully. When we fully are just feeling okay to just, I had the greatest day, I didn't do anything. I just stayed home, I hung out, I made something to eat, I laid out in the backyard, I read some, I did a little research. Like, it was just heaven to just have me and have no schedule, no time I had to be anywhere. It was just perfect. Those sorts of things. These self-help tools are important. My cleanse in September, one last time I'll give the pitch, online on Mondays from 10 to 1. You could look it up on my website, spaluna.com, and it will tell you future, because I'm going to do this again the end of January and the end of March, so you're ready to get rid of the holiday food and excess weight and toxins and alcohol, and then you're getting ready for that bikini. So I'm giving it to you. This cleanse right now in September is so you're going to be hot for Halloween. That's what I say. I am going to be, my cave woman is being revived once again. I have the greatest little costume, and I look better now than I did 10 or 12 years ago when I made that costume. So, and also we have David Garrison and I are teaching our relationship workshop in October, starts October 15th. Again, we're only taking 12 people, and this is primarily for singles. And we have a contract that you are going to get the first day, and each week of the 4 weeks, we're going to do various exercises, interactive exercises, process-oriented exercises, going back and forth one-on-one and in small groups, and in our large group where you're going to learn how do you get your needs met? What are your blind spots? What are red flags to look for? What are must-haves? So many things in this contract that you will be able to manifest and attract the ideal love of your life. And that cannot happen until you know these answers and you look sincerely and deeply within yourself and know how to bring that same love and attention to yourself first. And once you love and attend and make certain that you get your needs met personally, you will find a person in front of you in the body of the perfect love of your life that will also get those needs met for you. And that's how it works. So join us for our relationship workshop. And I loved our little podcast today. Please tell your friends about unconventional insights, share some episodes. I need followers and likes and social media wizards out there to help me reach as many people that my information is valuable to. And thank you. Aloha.